Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I add glitter to an image to make it sort of like these ones that you're seeing, where parts of the image are covered with this glitter. And it's sort of a trend right now on Instagram, and I just love it. So the first thing that I do is I go to my stock photography and I find some images of glitter. I found this white image of glitter that I want to place over the towel, and this black image of glitter that I want to be in the background. So you can see I've dragged those into Photoshop and I've just made them as layers and sort of resized them so that they fit perfectly over the spots where I know I want them to be, which is the white glitter on top of the towel and the black glitter on the background. So I just went ahead and copied that background layer, and I'm just going to go ahead and start with my black background layer here. So I'm going to drag that down right on top of that copy and just make sure that's resized so that it covers all of my background. Next, I'm going to create a layer mask here, and I'm just going to double click on there and then go ahead and invert the mask. So there you have it, and you can see that the mask is going to be underneath. So I take my brush here, B for brush, D for default, and I just take that opacity and flow up to 100%, and I am just going to start painting in my background layer here. And you want to zoom in really close and change the hardness of your brush where you need to, and just go in super closely all around and cover up the background layer. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that very quickly here. When you're doing your background painting, you really want to head in there and zoom in super close, especially if your background layer was originally something very bright and you're changing it to sort of this glittery background that's going to be a lot darker. You don't want to have any sort of halo, so you want to make sure you zoom in super close, and sometimes I even brush in a little bit over those edges just to make sure that there's none of that old background layer left. Basically, you just don't want to have a halo around your subject. Okay, so now you can see that we've painted in our background glitter, and it is looking pretty awesome if I do say so myself. I think that that is super cool and totally changes the image altogether. If I click on and off, you guys can totally see the difference. And now this looks good, but I definitely want to add glitter to this towel area too. So we're going to head up to this white glitter background. Just going to click on there and make sure that it's resized so that it totally fits right over the towel area. That way we know our glitter is going to cover that whole area there. And I'm just going to go ahead and add a mask here, double click and invert that mask. So we're not seeing it yet. We're going to brush it on just like the other one. B for brush, and we're going to be painting again with a white brush, and I am going to be changing the opacity of this later on so that you can still see these sort of ridges where the towel is folded, but for now we just want to get that texture in there. So we're just going to go ahead and paint over it full opacity, 100% opacity, 100% flow, and 100% opacity on the layer, and then we are going to play with those layers later on. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that very quickly. Okay, so now you can see when I click on and off here that we have painted in our towel cover glitter, and it's a bit solid here right now, but we are going to get to that later, bringing back in that texture a bit. But first, I want this just to be a bit more bright, so I'm going to head up to our brightness contrast and go ahead and bump that up, and I'm just going to hit this little button here, which applies it only to our towel layer underneath. That button there only allows this layer to be applied to the layer that is directly underneath. So now you can see that it doesn't affect the whole image, it really only affects our masked in glitter for the towel there. So now let's just change this layer to luminosity, because I really want it to only affect the brightness, sort of like the lightness of that layer, and it's sort of just made it a little bit more bright white to really bump up that glitter look there. Now let's click back onto our towel layer, and I just want to play with this here, and you guys should totally play with that too. So lighten is quite nice here, but I feel like it brought back too much of the towel. I don't want that much of the towel. Overlay is too bright. Soft light is too much towel, no glitter. Again, too bright. And you guys can, of course, take your time and click on and off. And this will definitely depend on what you are sort of going for here. That looks a bit spacey there. I think that definitely multiply and lighten are the best two options for this photo. And you can see when it's on multiply, it brings back a lot of the texture. When it's on lighten, it brings back a ton of texture, but you only really get a few little glitters on lighten. So I think for the sake of today, let's go with multiply. And that just looks really nice to me. But I definitely want it to be more bright white towel. So we're going to go in here to the hue sats and click on this slider and just eyedrop onto the towel. That way it sees that it's yellow and it's only affecting the yellows. And I'm just going to play around with the lightness and saturation here just to make it a bit less yellow. I don't want it to be that yellow, and I'd like it if it was a little bit brighter too. So now you can see that has made a huge difference, not nearly as yellow anymore. Because I made this layer in between the brightness and contrast layer and the actual masked layer, it's also only affecting the masked layer. You can see that by that little arrow that is on the left hand side between the eyeball and the mask. So now you guys can see the before and after, and we have gone ahead and created this super awesome glitter, super trendy photo, and I just love it. But if you really want to get into the details, I think that her body still looks really sort of clear to me, and I want to go ahead and offset the gamma there. So I'm going to go over to exposure and offset that and play around with the offset and the gamma correction sliders just to sort of get it a bit more matching with the glitter. I want it to have this sort of pop art look. So I'm just going to go ahead and drag that layer down, the exposure layer, right above my background copy, because I only want this to affect her body skin tones and her clothes rather than affecting the entire glitter as well of the image. So I'm going to drag that down. And now I am just going to play around with it now that I can see it just on her body and clothes, and get it to where I like it there. And you can see when I click on and off, it just gives it a bit more of this sort of collaged pop art look when the skin and the clothes aren't so crystal clear. So now I'm going to take another little look-see here, and I think that looks so much better with the exposure gamma offset a little bit, but I want to add just a little bit more brightness to the overall image. So I'm going to create a brightness layer right here at the very top and just go ahead and add just a tiny bit more brightness and contrast, and then just change that over to luminosity because I don't want it to affect the color. I just want it to affect the luminescence of the overall image. I am totally loving this, but I feel like the stars look a little bit flat, so I want to add a little bit more emphasis there. So I'm going to merge those layers and go filter, render, lens flare, and I am just going to add a little bit more emphasis to my stars here. So I'm going to try 105 and just place it directly over the star on the image. So you can see that I put that dot in the window just right on top of that star as best that I could. And you can play around with the opacity here if it looks just way too intense. I usually always bring it down a bit, and just click on and off and kind of see where I like it and how I like it. And yeah, I feel like that just gives the overall image so much more sort of oomph to that star and really makes it this sort of super cool collage-y look. And I love that. I don't add it to all the stars, just a few. And I also add it to a lot of the little shiny bits. So I think I might add one here on her jewelry as well, just to give that a little more flair. So again, filter, render, lens flare. And within this picture box is where you move your star around. And you can also change the brightness and intensity of your star in that slider as well there, and it's a little hard to see, but you kind of have to try your best just to get it on the right spot. And that looks really good. I feel like that jewelry is just so much more poppy now that we have that there. This image definitely ended up turning out a bit more spacey than glittery, but I did use glitter photos. I think that in general, people use a lot of these just silver glitter, but if you want to give your image a little bit more of a different look, I used colored glitters. And I'll just show you guys a few other edits that I did as well, using this exact same process and other colored glitters. I feel like they all turned out super cute and totally changed the overall vibe of the whole series. Here you guys can see the before and afters of all three. I hope this video was super helpful for you guys and you're now able to go off and create your own super awesome glittery images. If you like this video, please do consider giving it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel or else you'll miss all the videos that I post every week about editing, photography, videography, and so much more. I would love to see you all on Instagram and you can follow me at Gabrielle Reddick for all of the latest in my everyday life. Also, please totally comment below and let me know what other videos you guys want to see.